In January 2013, a young woman vanished during a solo trip to Los Angeles. She was 21, curious, creative, and full of life. Her family, waiting back home in Canada, stopped hearing from her. No texts, no calls. It was like she had simply disappeared into thin air. The last place she was seen, a rundown hotel in the heart of downtown LA, popular with tourists, but whispered about by locals. Police began their search. Flyers went up. But there were no leads, only one eerie piece of security footage from inside an elevator. In it, she's acting off, nervous, talking to someone who isn't there, hiding. What happened next would become one of the most disturbing and widely debated mysteries of the internet age. Who was Elisa Lam? Elisa Lam was born in British Columbia, Canada in 1991. Her parents were immigrants from Hong Kong, and by all accounts, Elisa was a bright and creative soul. She loved reading, writing, and sharing her thoughts online, especially on Tumblr, where she posted about her daily life, books she read, and her struggles with mental health. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. She was open about it, never trying to hide the fact that some days were harder than others. Still, she was determined to live life on her terms. In early 2013, she decided to take a trip down the west coast of the United States, alone. She wanted to explore, break out of her comfort zone, and experience something new. Los Angeles was just one stop on her journey, but, it would be her last. The Cecil Hotel, a building with a dark history. Elisa checked into the Cecil Hotel on January 28, 2013. At first glance, it looked like a budget-friendly place for young travelers. But the building carried a much darker legacy. The Cecil Hotel wasn't just any old hotel, it had a reputation. Over the decades, it had been the site of multiple suicides, violent crimes, and even connections to serial killers. Richard Ramirez, the infamous Night Stalker, reportedly stayed there during his killing spree in the 1980s. Another murderer, Jack Unterweger, lived there while pretending to be a journalist. Locals often called the place cursed. Guests complained of strange noises, unsettling encounters, and a general feeling of dread. Elisa, unaware or maybe just unconcerned, checked in and was originally placed in a shared room. But after her roommates complained about her odd behavior, she was moved to a room alone. On February 1st, just a few days after Elisa Lam went missing, hotel staff and police began reviewing surveillance footage. What they found would send shockwaves across the internet. The now infamous video, taken from inside one of the hotel's elevators, shows Elisa stepping in. But instead of pressing a floor number, she stands near the control panel, hesitating. She peeks out into the hallway several times, darting her head in and out like she's being followed. Then her behavior turns bizarre. She presses multiple buttons at once. She moves her hands in strange, almost ritualistic motions. It's as if she's speaking to someone we can't see. Eventually, she steps out of the elevator and disappears from view. The door stays open unnaturally long, and she's never seen alive again. No audio, no witnesses. Just that unsettling video looping endlessly online, fueling theories, nightmares, and something much darker still to come. For over 2 weeks, Elisa Lam was missing. Her face was on flyers. Her name was in news reports. But no one had answers until hotel guests started complaining. The water pressure was weak. The water itself was dark, odd-tasting, and had a strange smell. On February 19, 2013, a maintenance worker climbed to the hotel's rooftop to check the large water tanks. He lifted the lid of one and found Elisa Lam's body floating inside, naked, lifeless. Her clothes were later discovered at the bottom of the tank. The horror didn't stop there. Those same tanks had been supplying water to the hotel rooms, meaning guests had been drinking, brushing their teeth, and bathing in the same water her body had been decomposing in. How she got into the tank on a locked, alarmed rooftop remains one of the biggest unanswered questions of the case.
Tut, tut.
The investigation, right? What really happened? The autopsy ruled Elisa Lam's death as accidental drowning with bipolar disorder, listed as a contributing factor. There were no signs of physical trauma, no drugs or alcohol in her system, just her prescribed medications. But you know, many weren't satisfied with that answer. How did she access the rooftop? The door was supposed to be locked and triggered with an alarm. The tanks were heavy with no fixed ladders. And well, how did she close the lid behind her? The police offered little explanation. They believed Elisa may have been experiencing a mental health episode and climbed in on her own. But that theory didn't calm the storm of questions online. Some believed there was foul play, others claimed supernatural involvement, pointing to the hotel's dark past. There was no clear evidence of a crime, but also, no explanation that truly made sense. The facts only seemed to make things more disturbing. The deeper you looked, honestly, the less it added up. Once the elevator footage went public, the internet just exploded. People couldn't stop watching it. Forums lit up with theories, some logical, some, well, absolutely terrifying. Was Elisa being followed, possessed, or was someone hiding just out of frame? True crime fans, amateur detectives, and conspiracy theorists all dove in. They analyzed every frame, every movement. Some pointed to Elisa's blog posts, searching for clues. Others even blamed a death metal musician who had stayed at the Cecil years earlier, despite having no connection at all. Netflix released a documentary. YouTubers made deep dives. The case became legend. But lost in all the noise was Elisa herself, a real person with a real family, struggling with very real mental health issues. The obsession with her death turned her into a ghost story, a puzzle. And the truth, it got blurrier the more people tried to solve it. Elisa Lam was more than a viral video or a cold case. She was a daughter, a student, a writer, just someone trying to find her place in the world, and yet her death has become one of the most talked about mysteries of the internet age. The unanswered questions, the strange footage, the dark history of the hotel, it all combined into a story that people just can't seem to let go of. We may never know exactly what happened behind the closed doors of the Cecil Hotel. Whether it was a tragic accident, a mental health crisis, or something else entirely. The truth remains locked away, just out of reach. But Elisa's story reminds us of something important. Sometimes the scariest stories don't happen in haunted houses or dark forests. They happen in the places we sleep, the buildings we trust, and the moments we never expect.